Let me tell you, nobody really believes it's going to happen to them. You hear stories about family betrayal and big money changing hands, but it always sounds like something that happens in a headline. Not on your front lawn in the pouring rain, not with your 7-year-old clinging to you and your son trying not to cry, but that's where I was. Standing in the storm with my kids while my late husband's sister, Veronica, tossed our lives into the mud one box at a time, her face stone cold, her voice cutting right through the thunder, telling me, "This isn't your home anymore. Simone, you're not family, not without Robert here." And I'm just standing there thinking, is this really happening? Are we really being thrown out of the only home we've ever known just 3 weeks after the funeral? I mean, you can't make this stuff up, you know what I mean? She didn't flinch when I begged her. Rain pouring down my neck. "Please, Veronica, we've got nowhere to go. The kids need stability. Just give us a little time." But she was done. "You've had 3 weeks already." "I'm well within my rights," she said, handing me $500 in a crisp envelope like it was some kind of act of mercy. But it felt like hush money. Like I was supposed to take it and disappear, and all I could think about was Robert, how he'd worked himself to the bone for us, how none of this would be happening if he was still alive. But life's not fair, right? And pride doesn't keep kids fed or dry. So I took the cash and tried not to let the kids see me break. We piled what we could into garbage bags, clothes, papers, a few toys, everything else left behind. And I lied to Caleb when he asked if we could come back for the rest, because I knew Veronica would have it all trashed by morning, and I swear. As we waited under that cracked bus shelter, holding tight to each other in the cold, I promised them, and maybe myself, someday, somehow, we'd have a real home again. I just had no idea what that was going to cost us. The next days were a blur. A bus ride downtown that felt like a punishment, my daughter whispering, "Why doesn't Aunt Veronica like us anymore?" And me making up answers because the real truth, that sometimes people hurt you just because they can, wasn't something you tell a kid, you know? I scraped together enough for a motel room that smelled like old smoke, left the kids with this sweet old lady named Mrs. Rodriguez while I went looking for work. 3 interviews, 3 rejections. Finally landing graveyard shifts cleaning offices, flipping pancakes at a diner, whatever it took, just to keep us afloat. The apartment we found wasn't much. 2 rooms up a battered staircase in a neighborhood where sirens were more common than songbirds. But it was ours, and I tried to make it feel special. Pizza on the floor for our first dinner, telling the kids stories about Robert, how he'd come into my life one Tuesday at the library, shy and awkward, spilling coffee on a keyboard, and how he'd shown up every day after, just to talk to me, just to be near us. And even though the memories hurt, they also kept us together, gave us something to hold on to when it felt like the world had moved on and left us behind. For months, I worked myself to the edge, 3 jobs, 4 hours of sleep if I was lucky, always tired, always broke, but the kids adjusted better than I ever expected, making friends, doing well in school, surprising me with how resilient they could be. But at night, when everything went quiet, the loneliness crept in, and I wondered if Robert had hidden something from me. If maybe we were always on the brink, and I'd just never noticed. 6 months after Robert was gone, things finally started to feel stable. We weren't thriving, not really, but we weren't drowning either, and for the first time, I thought, maybe we'll actually be okay. And then the phone rang. "Mrs. Thompson?" The woman on the line was a lawyer, Patricia Chin, and let me tell you, when a lawyer calls out of nowhere about your dead husband's estate, your stomach drops right through the floor. I thought it was more bills, more bad news, but she wanted to meet, in person, something about an inheritance. And I almost laughed. Robert hadn't had 2 nickels to rub together. We were always paycheck to paycheck, so what was there to inherit? But I showed up anyway, sitting in this fancy office that smelled like money, and Patricia starts laying it out. Turns out Robert's great-uncle, William Thompson, was loaded, like old money, private planes, the whole deal. And he'd left everything to his closest living relative, my Robert. Only Robert died just weeks before the will could pass to him. And according to the law, that meant me and the kids, his widow and children, were entitled to the whole estate, which was, get this, around $200 million. Let that sink in, yeah? I almost fell off my chair. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. Someone had already started claiming the inheritance. Someone who said Robert died unmarried, with no kids, and provided paperwork to back it up. You see where this is going, right? Veronica, my sister-in-law, the same woman who threw us out in the ring. Patricia showed me documents. Veronica had forged papers, lied to the estate's executors, started selling off property, moving cash into offshore accounts, all while I was scrubbing floors and counting pennies. It hit me like a punch, how calculated she'd been, not just cruel or greedy, but methodical, even hiring people to follow us, document our struggles, to erase us as Robert's family. She wanted us invisible so she could take it all. Patricia was ready to fight. Legal injunctions, criminal charges, freezing what assets were left, but it was going to be a battle, and Veronica's lawyers didn't waste any time hitting back, painting me as a fraud, a gold digger, even claiming the kids weren't Robert's biological children. It was ugly, the kind of fight that gets you on the news. Turns your life inside out. People whispering, reporters calling, my name in headlines for all the wrong reasons. But something shifted in me. I'd been so tired, so used to keeping my head down, just surviving. But seeing how Veronica tried to rewrite our whole history, erase Robert's love for us, made me furious in a way I'd never felt before. I wasn't going to let her win. I wasn't going to let my kids believe they weren't worthy of their father's name or their place in his family. The court battle lasted months. Every day, another accusation. More evidence, more humiliation, but Patricia's team kept digging, finding every forged signature, every secret transfer, every lie Veronica told. And when it all came out, the surveillance photos, the emails where she called my kids not real family, the witness testimonies about how she'd thrown us out. Even the jury looked sick. I testified, told the truth about Robert, about our life, about how he'd adopted my kids because he loved them, how he'd worked himself to death trying to build us a future. In the end, Veronica was found guilty, fraud, conspiracy, you name it. 12 years in prison, full restitution, our house and most of the assets returned. It was justice, I guess, but it didn't feel triumphant. It just felt like closing a door on a nightmare and starting over from zero, but this time with the means to actually build something lasting. I used some of the money to help others, like the old woman Veronica had scammed, the tenants she'd left homeless, because, and maybe this sounds corny, I couldn't just take the win and move on, not with so many people still hurting from what she'd done. I started the Robert Thompson Foundation, helped families like ours get back on their feet. And yeah, people called me a hero, but honestly, I just wanted to show my kids, and maybe myself, that we were more than what happened to us. Sometimes I wonder if Veronica ever truly understood the damage she caused, if she regrets it. But in her one letter from prison, she just sounded sorry for herself, not for us. The last time I saw her in court, I saw shame in her eyes, maybe for the first time, but it was too late for that. Now, years later, I watch my kids play in the garden Robert loved, laughter filling the air, the house warm and alive again. And I know we survived something most families don't. We turned betrayal into something better, took pain, and made it a reason to lift others up. People still ask me, don't you wish it had all happened differently? And sure, in some ways. But I know this, we didn't just inherit money, we inherited resilience, the kind that can't be stolen, can't be faked. And that's worth more than anything William Thompson could have left in a will. So yeah, that's my story, and I'd love to know, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? If your own family turned on you for money, would you fight back or walk away? Let's talk about what real justice looks like, about what we owe each other when the world falls apart. Because I think that's a story a lot of us are still figuring out together.